Okay, let's unpack this. Have you ever wished you had a shortcut, like a way to really get the pulse of the crypto world? It moves so fast.
Oh, absolutely. Keeping up with what the big players are doing, new projects, regulations, it's a lot. You can easily get lost in the noise, the jargon.
Exactly. Finding clarity and all that, well, that's the challenge.
Mhm.
And that's why today we're doing a deep dive. We've got this fascinating document. It's a daily market insights report from June 24th, 2025. It's the daily alpha from Z.
Right, and these reports are pretty useful, I find. They connect dots you might miss otherwise.
Yeah, our mission here for you listening is to basically pull out the most important nuggets from this report, cut through that noise, give you a clearer picture of what's actually shaping crypto right now, and the why behind some of these headlines.
And you see how things link up, right? Institutional moves, protocol performance, regulation. It's not all separate buckets. This gives you that snapshot for the day.
Totally. So we'll be looking at sections like daily focus, smart money, protocol performance, trade setups, even upcoming events, and the bigger macro view.
It's like getting a curated tour from an analyst, basically, what really mattered on, well, on this specific day.
Okay, so let's jump into the daily focus. This section, it really highlights some maybe unexpected movers.
Always some surprises in there.
Yeah, and the first one. Okay, I saw this name, FARTCOIN. Seriously, had to double check.
Yeah, memorable name at least.
But despite the name, the activity is actually pretty significant. Binance deposits just went live. So trading is probably starting any minute.
Okay.
And get this, $4 billion in 24-hour perpetual volume.
Wow. 4 billion. That's huge volume for that. And those are the contracts without expiry, right? Continuous leverage.
Exactly. Plus, 137% gains in Q2. And someone or some group just accumulated $1 million worth.
That accumulation, the $1 million DCA, that suggests conviction. Someone believes it's going higher, building a position.
Right. It makes you wonder what's really driving value sometimes.
Yeah.
Beyond just the tech or fundamentals.
Well, it's often about liquidity and access. The big exchange listing like Binance, that alone can create massive momentum. Maybe short-lived, maybe not, but the narrative matters.
Yeah, good point. Okay, sticking with market validation, let's talk USDC. Circle's valuation hit $68 billion.
68 billion. Okay.
Which is actually more than the current USDC circulation, which is around $61.5 billion.
Huh. That's interesting. So the market values the company, the potential, higher than the stablecoins they currently have out there.
Seems like it. And Fiserv, the big TradFi tech company.
Yeah, no, for the
just launched FIUSD. It's a platform for their banks, like over 10,000 banks. And the Treasury just minted nearly $100 million in new USDC.
Okay, so you've got Fiserv bringing it to banks, more USDC being minted. This feels like stablecoins embedding deeper into traditional finance.
Right. It's not just crypto anymore.
No, it's about digitizing dollars, making things interoperable. Stablecoins are becoming like core financial infrastructure, moving beyond just a niche crypto thing.
And speaking of core Bitcoin,
Yeah.
not exactly sitting still either.
Never does for long.
We saw multiple big whale moves. Over $340 million shifted around in just a few hours. One buy was $235 million alone.
Wow. Serious money moving.
But maybe even bigger, geopolitically speaking, Texas. They've allocated $10 million for the first state strategic Bitcoin reserve in the U.S.
Okay, that is significant. A U.S. state putting Bitcoin in its reserve.
Yeah. And at the same time, Japan's talking about a 20% flat tax for crypto.
So Texas sees it as a strategic asset, maybe diversification, maybe an inflation hedge.
But isn't that risky? For a state, it's still volatile. Is it just symbolic or a real long-term play?
It's likely both, right? It's definitely symbolic, Texas being forward-thinking on digital assets, but it could also be a practical bet on future value. It carries risk, for sure. And Japan's move, the tax framework, that's about clarity. Regulation, even if it's taxes, can actually boost adoption by making the rules clear. It gives businesses and investors certainty.
Okay, that makes sense. Certain helps.
Yeah.
So we've seen where money's moving. Let's look at who is moving it. The smart money section.
Right, the big, often institutional players.
We got this whale, address starts 0x, who's been accumulating ETH, a lot of ETH. 161,112 ETH.
Whoa, how much is that worth?
About $422 million. They bought it via Galaxy Digital's OTC desk over 3 weeks.
OTC, over the counter. So big block trades off the public exchanges to avoid moving the price too much. That screams long-term strategy, not quick flips.
Exactly. And interestingly, at current prices, they're actually down. showing a $36.68 million floating loss.
See, that loss doesn't seem to faze them. They're likely looking way further out the next week or next month. Real conviction in Ethereum's future.
And it's not just anonymous whales.
Yep.
BlackRock, they just bought $25.8 million worth of ETH. That's after selling a smaller amount earlier. So a reversal.
BlackRock flipping back in. Okay.
Fidelity added ETH too. 27,175 ETH, worth about $60.5 million to their treasury.
So combined, what's that? Over $85 million flowing into ETH from just those two institutions in like 24 hours.
Let's see, 25.8 plus 60.5. Yeah, over $86 million. It's significant.
It really is. It tells you these institutions aren't just dipping a toe in anymore. They're actively managing, strategically allocating to Ethereum as part of their, broader portfolios. It's becoming a standard asset class for them.
Right, not just some weird fringe investment. Okay, so that's the money flow. What about the tech itself? Protocol, performance?
Yeah, where's the innovation happening? What's getting traction?
Hyperliquid seems to be doing really well. Generated $63 million in revenue, distributed to token holders in the last 30 days.
63 million back to holders. That's a strong incentive.
Yeah, and they apparently have 70% of the on-chain perpetuals volume. Plus, they did a $4.3 million token buyback, burning them. Says it's a 15% annual deflation rate.
Okay, so direct revenue sharing, making the tokens scarcer through buybacks and burns, and dominating a key market segment like on-chain perps. That's a textbook example of good tokenomics and product market fit. Users clearly want what they're offering.
And then there's Radium. June volume over $10 billion.
$10 billion on Radium. That's huge for a DEX.
Yeah, says they have 32% DX market share, which sounds dominant. And they're launching rewards, $200,000 weekly for traders and people who launch new tokens.
The incentive game. That kind of volume shows Radium is critical infrastructure, especially on Solana, right? But the rewards, that's how you fight to keep users and liquidity in this space. It's hyper-competitive.
Definitely feels like it. Also, a Drave got a huge liquidity boost, 400 million USDT from HTX. Biggest monthly addition for them.
400 million, that's a massive injection. Shows the demand for borrowing and lending is still incredibly high in DeFi.
And they're expanding. Their first proposal to deploy outside the Ethereum virtual machine world, is the right path, for Aptos integration.
Ooh, interesting. Ava going cross-chain, beyond just EVM chains. That's a big strategic step for a giant like Ava, reaching totally new ecosystems and users. Good sign the community backed it too, reaching quorum.
Yeah. The report also dives into specific trade setups, gives like entry points, targets, stop losses for tokens, mentions Vader, Seomai.
Right, gets more granular there, connecting the broader trends to actual actionable ideas, maybe for shorter-term traders, showing the catalysts.
Like it notes, 7i is up 65% weekly, top gainer, getting institutional recognition. So it connects the dots from macro down to specific tokens.
Exactly. It shows how those bigger themes can play out in individual asset prices.
Okay, looking ahead, this week, lots of TGEs, token generation events, new tokens launching.
Always a dizzy calendar for launches.
Dollars, which is Humanity, has its TGE tomorrow, June 25th.
Yeah.
Getting listed on Binance Alpha and Futures.
Humanity, I think I read about that one. They use palm standing for verification.
Yeah, like an alternative to WorldCoin's iris scan. It says over 5 million testnet users.
Interesting. Shows that whole digital identity space within Web3 is still innovating, trying different approaches.
Also, TiceRV listed on Binance with the trading competition. Wow. TiceBark already listed airdrop for BNB holders. It's constant.
It is. Keeps the market dynamic, brings new projects and communities online constantly.
Okay, finally, let's zoom out to the macro view. This feels really important.
Yeah, the regulatory and institutional backdrop sets the stage for everything else.
The U.S. Senate passed something called the Genius Act for stablecoin regulation. Passed 68-30.
68-30, that's pretty bipartisan support. That's significant for stablecoin clarity in the U.S.
And the Fed apparently removed reputational risk penalties related to crypto. Plus, Japan proposing a Bitcoin ETF framework.
Taken together. That's a major shift, right? Regulators globally seem to be moving towards creating frameworks, not just reacting with bans or warnings. It's becoming more proactive, more enabling.
Which presumably makes institutions more comfortable.
Exactly. Regulatory clarity is one of the biggest hurdles for large institutions. Clear rules reduce their risk and make it easier to get involved.
And the money keeps flowing in. Digital asset products like ETFs. 10th straight week of inflows. Totaled $1.24 billion just this last week.
10 weeks straight. That's not just noise, that's a persistent trend. Institutional capital is consistently moving into this space.
Yeah, Bitcoin ETFs. Cumulative trading volume just passed $1 trillion.
$1 trillion.
Yeah.
That's a massive milestone. Shows how integrated these products have become in traditional markets already. They're liquid, they're established.
Okay, wow. So let's try and pull all these threads together. What's the big picture message from this single day's report?
Well, we covered a lot, didn't we?
Yeah, from FARTCOIN's weirdly huge numbers and Binance listing.
Hey, right. To Circle's valuation jumping past its own stablecoin supply.
Bitcoin whales moving hundreds of millions. Texas starting a state reserve.
Institutions like BlackRock and Fidelity adding significantly to their ETH positions.
Protocols like Hyperliquid and Radium's showing really strong performance and user growth.
A YEEV expanding, major regulation like the Genius Act passing.
And those consistent, massive inflows into digital asset products week after week.
I think the core message is about the interconnectedness. You know, you've got this rapid tech innovation happening on the ground with protocols.
Right.
You've got significant capital, both from like whales and huge institutions, recognizing the value and pouring in.
And then the regulatory side is trying to catch up, building the frameworks to manage it all.
Exactly. It's all happening at once. Hopefully, walking through this report helped connect some of those dots for you, give you a sense of the dynamics under the surface.
Yeah, hopefully giving you a clearer perspective beyond just the price charts. Now, super important, the report itself says this, and we have to echo it. This is all just for informational purposes.
Absolutely. It's not financial advice. You always, always have to do your own research. DYOR. Manage your risk.
Definitely. Critically important in any market, especially crypto.
So maybe a final thought to leave people with. We're seeing states like Texas create Bitcoin reserves. We're seeing major legislation like the Genius Act pass. Institutions keep piling in. New tech keeps launching. What does all this signal for like mainstream adoption, for digital assets becoming just part of the normal global financial system over the next few years? Where do you think the biggest changes, the biggest shifts are going to happen next? Something to ponder.
That is a great question to think about. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive today.